What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. Starting off with data points, don't really have all that much this week. Tuesday evening is going to be a day to watch for because you have the inflation both year over year and month over month. Current forecasts are relatively flat for that, and generally the last couple data points have been absolutely on point, and usually that does result in a nice push higher, of course, with Chinese stocks. So that's again something to keep in mind for the Wednesday, because that's when it'll get adjusted into the price. Aside from that, Tuesday evening you have PPI. Only other day to really watch for is Friday evening, but that'll get rolled over into the following week. Aside from all of that fun stuff, though, you're going to have the market really digesting Trump's new big, beautiful bill and whatever else. Some people seem to be very mixed on it, some very bearish, some somewhat neutral / bullish. So the market's going to be digesting that. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is NIO does largely get moved by algorithmic trading. So that could, of course, influence NIO indirectly through that. Aside from that, there really isn't anything planned for this upcoming week specific to NIO. No fireside chats, no real kind of speculative topics even that's come out over the last couple of trading days worthwhile to bring up. One thing I do want to share with you though, which was rather interesting, was this. So William recently said that smear campaigns against NIO cost between 30 to 50 million RMB a month. So just shy of 7 million USD. So that is crazy stuff. Do you believe that is true? I don't, only because of, like, if someone was, or entities were paying just shy of 7 million USD a month, there would be a significantly higher short interest. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong. What's your viewpoint on this? This is the only thing that I wanted to bring up that was rather interesting, not really a catalyst or anything, but what's your viewpoint on that? Again, I feel like some CEOs, if things just, your stock keeps getting hit time and time again, you kind of look at scapegoats, and I think maybe they're just using this as something. Although I do see on social media a lot of speculative rumors do come out, but that happens with every stock, including a lot of other ones that I cover, such as Lucid. Like, there's almost a new partnership rumor coming out every single week about Lucid, but you don't see them kind of doing this type of stuff or kind of taking those entities to court. Kind of interesting how NIO does play. But aside from that, going into this upcoming week, 13.46% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 207 million shares overall being shorted. DTC is a little bit high, so 5.61 days. And so ultimately, the higher the number, the larger magnitude of a potential squeeze. So that does factor in NIO's average volume in comparison to the number of shares being shorted. So if NIO was to drop some amazing kick-ass surprise news, then you could see a little bit more of a short squeeze. Again, for those individuals that are kind of believing that could happen, I just put out a video, top 5 most heavily shorted EV stocks. Spoiler alert, NIO was number 4. So definitely pop over there and kind of watch that video. Aside from that though, shorts surprisingly have broken their trend and have started to kind of generally start to return. So as of June the 23rd, that seems to be the peak. So of course, going into this upcoming week, you could see them continue that return. But aside from that though, with it closing just at that 350 mark, I think that Seeking Alpha is actually rounding it up to 351, but nonetheless 350, that does mean that the 350 strike prices are in the money. So what does that mean? 14,000 at 350 and then 448 at the 3. So all of that is considered in the money, meaning market makers are going to have to cover that. So come Monday, you're going to see a nice little push higher, possibly as a byproduct of that. And even looking at the dark pool, you didn't see any kind of abnormal transactions after hours on the Thursday. So sometimes that's where market makers do cover some shares. You see that more commonly with like SoFi and other stocks that I do cover. But nonetheless, though, you should see a nice push higher straight out the gate. So that could at least hopefully kickstart some nice buying buying and a nice push higher with NIO for this upcoming week. Aside from that though, the only thing I do anticipate to come is NIO to get a couple new analyst ratings, and that would be because of their monthly numbers. And I think just because of kind of the trading days being closed, so Friday was closed, Thursday closed at 1 p.m. Eastern, so I feel like just analysts didn't really, like, they took the week off for the most part. So maybe you might see some new ratings coming out this week that will be digesting NIO's numbers. So maybe about 2 or 3 possibly. I think that's best case scenario. And then dependent on kind of what they give for price targets, that could of course positively impact NIO. If it's higher single digits, let's say like maybe 7 or 6 possibly. Let me know your viewpoint on that. But over the last 3 months though, $4.49 is that price target, representing a 27.92% upside. Aside from that though, with it at closing at 351 on the Thursday, it is trading between this pivot and this S1, so 334 is going to be a strong support. Hasn't been tested in a good week and a half or even 2 weeks, so that's a good thing in my opinion. And then 356 is going to be the next strong target / resistance. Aside from all that though, there hasn't really been any articles really coming out associated to the NIO. I think NIO's name is just getting dragged into some just general articles because this one's clearly about GM. But aside from that though, on the actual chart itself, it did successfully close above that ALMA, showing it does want to move higher with the recent push higher and abnormal volume. You see the stochastic RSI relatively higher, neutral-ish, potentially if it does get to, let's say, that 360 in my opinion, this is where you will see it fully overbought. Nothing really wrong with that. NIO typically does that when it goes kind of breaking out. But first sign of weakness, then you could see a little bit more of a pullback as a byproduct of that. So again, just something to keep in mind for this upcoming week. But as I've mentioned over the last, I don't know, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, something like that, the 50-day moving average, 376, is going to be that key make it or break it point for NIO. And most likely this week, it could have a good opportunity to run up, piggyback off the broader market's momentum, and actually hit that. But I think NIO does need to put out something concrete. They need to give investors and Wall Street something, because NIO, as you can see, and I've brought up many times, NIO does these random pushes higher above key moving averages, but then you have shorts. Shorts double down at that stage and just hammer it back down. Happens time and time again, right here, right here, right here, like almost every single time NIO attempts to break above that 50-day moving average, you have shorts just waking the hell up. So NIO really does need to do something to incentivize some institutional buying. So let me know your thoughts. So like I said, I do feel like we will have a nice run up. Whether we close above that 50-day moving average, I think that's all based on NIO and if they're able to put out something new. But based on what I can see, I don't think there's anything that they could put out. Of course, I think there's a lot of optimism associated to chips and how that could cut down a lot on costs of their own products alone. But yeah, let me know your general thoughts on NIO. What do you think the next big catalyst is? Because the last big anticipated or highly anticipated catalyst was going to be their monthly numbers. Didn't really do all too much. Yes, of course, it kind of moved higher a little bit, but nothing substantial that it held. So what do you think is going to be the next very big catalyst for NIO? So let me know your thoughts on NIO. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Hopefully everyone had a good weekend. To all the Americans out there, happy 4th of July weekend and all the other fun jazz. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, crypto, many of which have been absolutely on point. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.